Good day, student. I'm Dr. M.K. Malahlela, the lecturer for the module DPP1501. The name of the module is Diversity, Pedagogy, and Practice. Today, we are going to talk about assignments. I have the following tips for you for answering the assignments, or tips for answering assignment questions. Firstly, you have to understand the question. Read the question carefully. Make sure you read the question several times to fully understand what is being asked. Secondly, you've got to know the key words for that particular question that you would be trying to answer. Identify the keyword or keywords for all questions or for a particular question in an assignment. Look for action words like analyze, discuss, compare, evaluate, and so forth, which indicate the type of response that is required. I would also like to talk about time management. Please start early to prepare yourself for the assignment that has been sent or uploaded on the system. Begin working on your assignment well before the deadline to avoid last-minute stress. Set milestones. In other words, break the task into manageable parts and set deadlines for each part. Avoid procrastination. Do not delay. Stay focused and disciplined in your study and writing schedule. Acknowledge reference sources to avoid plagiarism. I hope you all know what plagiarism entails. That is writing things or copying and pasting information into your assignment and not acknowledging the source. It means you would be plagiarizing. Do not Zoom your assignment when submitting online because this makes it difficult to mark your assignment. Assignments should be typed and submitted in PDF format only. Do not submit your assignment online in Word format. Only consider submitting your assignment in PDF format. You are always encouraged to do this. To submit your assignment, also the assignment that is being typed. I know you may be having problems with typing equipment and so forth, but we encourage you to please submit typed assignments online. Right now, looking at study unit number 3, this is part of our discussion for today or part of our lesson for today. In your study guide, study unit number 3 is about the SEAS policy, which is about identification and support for learners with barriers to learning. It is about this document and other policy documents. So with regard to identification and support for learners with barriers to learning, these learners, in order to be identified, you need to assess them. And then in this case, for learners with barriers to learning to be accommodated, they must be screened, identified, assessed, and supported. Different types of assessment are discussed in your study guide. Please read page 22 to 29 in your study guide to familiarize yourself with the different types of assessment, which include baseline assessment, formative assessment, diagnostic, summative, and evaluative assessment. It is very, very much important for you to familiarize yourself with these different types of assessment so that you must understand better how to assess the learners in the classroom, and especially those with barriers to learning. I'm continuing with the issue of screening, identification, assessment, and support according to the SEAS policy document. So this SEAS policy document, you can access it on the website that is given, and kindly note that it has been published by the Department of Basic Education in 2024. We prefer this version, the 2014 version of it. That is very much important for you to know the content of this inclusive education policy document, which is called the Policy on Screening, Identification, Assessment, and Support. What is the rationale for the SEAS document, or the basis for this SEAS document? The SEAS document has a purpose of teaching you about identification, assessment, and support for learners who may or are experiencing learning barriers. Guidelines, or it provides guidelines with regard to management and support for teaching and learning for learners who experience learning barriers. The SEAS also directs the education system on how to plan, to budget, and program support at all levels of the system. It guides the enrollment of learners in special schools. I hope you are conversant with the process of referring learners to special schools. If suppose a learner with barriers to learning, with profound barriers to learning, has been identified in your mainstream school, this must be taken up with the school-based support team, and the school-based support team in collaboration with the learning support teacher will contact the district-based support team. This team, which is called the district-based support team, is the one who that is capable of referring learners who are having barriers to learning, especially those that are regarded as profound. The the district-based support team is responsible for referrals, or for referring these types of learners to special schools. The rationale for the SEAS, again, is that it provides guidelines towards the composition of and functioning of key support structures, such as the institutional level support team. The institutional level support team is, in other words, called the school-based support team. So it will provide guidelines towards the composition of such a team in your school. The SEAS policy, again, provides protocol and tools to be used by various role players to implement the SEAS process. Now we are going to look at the outline of the SEAS process, or what we call the SEAS protocol. It has different stages to follow, or it guides us with regard to different steps to follow during the process of screening, identification, assessment, and support. Okay, stage number 1 is called initial screening. In this case, this is a way of making use of learner profile and other documents in order to screen the learners, especially during their first entrance to school. Okay, stage number 2, which means after screening, you have to determine the assessment that will be needed by these learners that have been screened, especially those that have been identified as having barriers to learning. Stage number 2 constitute the assessment and intervention by the teacher and school-based support team. And they make use of the form, which is called the Support Needs Assessment Form number 1 and 2. Please refer to the policy document on SEAS. That's where you are going to find the examples of these types of forms that must be completed by the school-based support team once the learners with barriers to learning have been identified. Right? If the problem is huge, or these learners that have been identified have been seen or have been considered to be having profound barriers to learning, because it depends on the level of assessment that is needed. Okay, then you shall have to get to stage number 3, which involves the district-based support team, the DBST, district-based support team. And the DBST, or the district-based support team, will use the support needs assessment form number 3 to guide their discussions regarding the formation, regarding the information provided by the school-based support team. And in their discussion, or let me say, the discussion will include the following. It will include classroom support. How do we support these learners that have been identified as having challenges or difficulties with regard to learning in the classroom situation? Once the learners or the learner have been identified as having barriers to learning, they will need classroom support, which means the teacher must have knowledge on how to support such like learners in the classroom setup. Okay, this can be carried out through, for example, curriculum differentiation. I believe you don't hear this concept for the first time. It is also there in your study guide. Please refer to the study guide, study unit number 3. You will hear about curriculum differentiation. So the question now is, what is curriculum differentiation? Curriculum differentiation is a key strategy for responding to the needs of learners with diverse learning styles and needs. So it counteracts the traditional way of teaching, where the teacher will just apply teaching methodologies, the content or the assessment strategies that is referred to as one size fits all. But this is different with regard to curriculum differentiation, because with this one, you shall have to respond to the various needs of the learners in your classroom, considering their learning styles, considering their barriers to learning, and so forth. Curriculum differentiation takes into account learners' ability levels or interests and backgrounds. Again, curriculum differentiation can be done at different levels of teaching. Whilst you are teaching or whilst you are planning your lesson, you must be able to differentiate the content. You differentiate the methodologies or the process as well. You also have to differentiate the assessment. And lastly, the learning environment. Okay, let us look at these items each at a time for us to have a clearer understanding of what it entails, what curriculum differentiation entails. When differentiating the content, it means you look at what you teach. Or in other words, content is what we teach and what the learner is expected to learn. Then you shall have to adjust the content, or you adjust and adapt the content. In other words, make the content easy to understand for different learners, because in the classrooms we have a learner or a diversity of learners. Okay, how do you differentiate the content? You can apply what we call multi-level teaching. This entails presentation of teaching and learning content at different levels. In other words, consider different learning styles as you prepare your lesson or as you teach in the inclusive teaching and learning environment. Okay, the different learning styles that we are talking about are, in other ways, multiple intelligences that you can find in your classroom setup. No two learners are alike. They each have different attributes, different ways of knowledge or knowing and of expressing knowledge. In planning lessons, the teacher must consider the range of activities related to the content of the lesson and the skills learners have to master. This will provide a range of opportunities in order to respond to learners' different strengths and learning styles. Okay, you can find this type of information from the Inclusive Education Policy document, which has also been published by the Department of Basic Education in 2011. This policy document is called Guidelines for Responding to Learners' Diversity in the Classroom through Curriculum and Assessment Policy Statement, grade R to 12. All right, please look for these guidelines. They will help you a lot as a teacher. In your lesson plan, ask yourself the following questions. How do I accommodate different or multiple intelligences in my classroom? Because you may find that there are learners who are referred to as logical mathematical learners. That is another type of learning style. Special learners, intrapersonal learners, interpersonal learners, the bodily kinesthetic learners, the musical learners, the verbal linguistic, and so forth. Okay, you can ask yourself, if you want to differentiate the learning content, how can I include the use of numbers, classifications, critical thinking, and calculations in my lesson, so that I can accommodate the logical mathematical learners? How can I include pictures and diagrams, colors, art, or graphs? It also depends on the level of or the grade that you are teaching, because some of the issues are related to foundation phase, others to intermediate or intercent phase, and so forth. Okay, how can I include private learning or private learning time and choice? That is intrapersonal intelligence for other learners, or intrapersonal learning style. And then for the interpersonal learners, you will include group work, peer sharing, and discussions. And for the bodily kinesthetic learners, you will include movement, practical apparatus, drama, or art and craft in your lesson presentation. And there are those learners that learn better when maybe music is included in your lesson. You can include music or a song, rhythms and dance, so they learn better in that way. Remember, all these things can be accommodated in one lesson plan. And then the verbal linguistic learners, on the other hand, will want you or would like you to include reading, writing, and speaking, and so forth. So we shall come and expatiate about these things later on in another lesson. Differentiating the learning styles as well. We continue with that one. Remember, learners or the students in your class learn differently. That is why we are talking about including the multiple learning style or the multiple intelligences. So it is very, very much important for you to consider this for your learners in the classroom. Okay, differentiation of teaching methodologies. I want us to move on. Because you've got to differentiate the learning content, the teaching methodologies, or the teaching methods or the process, as well as the assessment and the teaching and learning environment. Okay, how do you teach? In other words, the teaching methods. How? Here we include the how part. How do you teach? How do you support learners with barriers to learning in your classroom? You can incorporate different teaching methods, such as number one, cooperative learning. This is the situation where learners assist one another during the learning process. Learners of mixed levels of ability, or you can create heterogeneous groups of learners that are arranged into 2 or 3 groups. So learners in this way will assist one another. Another method can be demonstration method of teaching. Demonstration. The learner, especially those with learning difficulties, can watch the teacher demonstrating something, or they watch how a teacher or other learners handle and complete the tasks using a step-by-step process. That is, the teacher demonstrates how to do it. And then the third one is multisensory approach. In this case, or in this instance, the teacher facilitates learning through a variety of learning styles. For an example, learners can learn the content through movement, touching objects, or what we call the tactile learning, and then singing, using sight, or the visual learner, those that learn better when they see things. The listening style, movement or kinesthetics, and so forth. The key in this kind of, or this method of teaching, is to use 2 or more senses at the same time. For example, maybe at foundation phase level, you can tell or teach the learners to trace a certain letter of alphabet, and at the same time saying it out loud. A, tracing maybe the letter A, they say it out loud at the same time tracing or writing it. That is, saying sound as they write. So this is multi-sensory approach or teaching method. Another one is referred to as aided language stimulation. The teacher explains the content by using speech, gestures, pictures, and demonstration to provide learners with strong or deeper understanding. And then the teacher can, or this type of teaching method can involve increasing learners' vocabulary by using augmentative and alternative communication, what we call the AAC system. Okay, peer tutoring. In this case, the teacher can assign a peer to assist learners who have difficulties in understanding the content. A higher performing learner can be paired with a lower performing learner to review critical academic or behavioral concepts. And please remember, no learner must be forced to teach another learner. This is just another kind of cooperative learning or peer tutoring, or like I've explained, that a higher performing learner can help or can be paired with a lower performing learner so that they help each other during the lesson. Then the other teaching method that can be applied is scaffolding. In this case, learners may require extensive initial guidance, proofreading of written work, breaking down of the content into smaller chunks, and so forth. Now coming to differentiating the assessment. Differentiating assessment involves rethinking the traditional practice of having all learners to do the same assessment task at the same time. In this new way of thinking, teachers may need an assessment approach and plan that is flexible, not that one of one size fits all. No, the assessment approach that is flexible enough to accommodate a range of learner needs. This is what is required in an inclusive teaching and learning environment. Again, to differentiate the assessment, you can design the assessment tasks which would allow for different learning styles or intelligences. For example, the teacher can use a range of question types in one classroom activity, from knowledge and recall to evaluation and even speculation, to allow a range of learners' understanding to emerge. Don't just set, okay, for an example, don't just give learners a question like discuss. Every question stating discuss, discuss, discuss. That is not fair. You must vary the types of questions. Maybe arrange your questions in the sense that there will be low order questioning or low order questions, middle order questions, and the high order questions, so that your questioning becomes flexible. And please also consider the cognitive levels of your learners with regard to the Bloom's taxonomies. Please consider that time and again when you set assessment activities for your learners. So that is a way of differentiating the assessment. How do you assess the learners again? Allow for tests and assignments to be taken orally as well as in written form. Be flexible. Those that are not coping with written form of assessment, you can give them oral assessments. Give multiple choice options. Provide tasks which require short answers for certain learners. Provide tasks that require discussion of concepts, mind maps, interpretation of pictures, scenario questions, etc. Based on the same lesson topic, the teachers may allow learners to choose how to present their answers. For an example, some learners in a class may choose to demonstrate their learning by writing a report, while others choose to create a poster, and others can choose to do oral presentation. You see, this is how we differentiate the assessment. But all these activities based on one lesson topic, based on one lesson plan. So that is how we differentiate the content, the methodologies, the assessment in the inclusive teaching and learning environment. And Finally, in conclusion, let me say to you guys, we are all different, but we are all friends. So that is the reason why we must accommodate the diverse learners in our teaching and learning situation. Thank you very much for listening, and please let's meet again in the next lesson. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day going onwards.